My dog will pretend to pee so that we let her inside. What are some signs of intelligence in your pets that you almost can't believe? My dog will drag a piece of bark or stick into the middle of the yard in the sun, and then roll on it, using it as a back scratch. Dunno why this is so impressive to me, but it is. One of my parents' dogs does this thing where she kicks her rear foot in the air when she needs to go outside. I should add that both of my parents' dogs love my mom more than anyone else in the family. One night my parents were down the street at their friend's house. The aforementioned dog came up to me and acted like she needed to go out, so I put her leash on and took her outside. She immediately tried to run down the street towards where my mom was. She had tricked me into thinking she needed to pee so she could go be with mom. I was proud of her for outwitting me and made a mental note that she was smarter than I gave her credit for. An hour later she tried the same trick and I fell for it again. You think you've conditioned the dog when in fact, the dog has conditioned you. My dog figured out that I only wear a specific pair of shoes when I would take him on a walk. So, he started to bring me one of the shoes when he wanted out. If you even barely brush the leash where it is hanging, my dog will run like a bolt of lightning to the door, ready to go. We also don't say the W word around him as he knows that word. A horse at the farm passed away in a freak accident, impaled himself on a wooden post. Backhoe arrives and he's buried under some trees in a pasture. When the horses were put back into the pasture, they gathered around the grave in a semicircle and stood with their heads lowered for over an hour. I've heard several other stories about horses mourning after one dies, not even a friend or member of the herd. Years ago, there was a horse on the farm that was just staying for the summer. She passed away suddenly, and the following day the trainer commented that all of the horses were lethargic, seemed depressed. That's amazing. I can't tell if I'm sad on their behalf or terrified because they're far smarter than I was expecting. My parents have a poodle, about 25 pounds, 6 years old. He is spoiled rotten, has no manners, and they coddle him. Still, he is dang smart. He sits in the window, waiting for my mom to get home each night. She sees him going crazy when her headlights flash on the windows. He jumps up and down and starts spinning in circles. In the minute it takes her to park, unpack, and unlock the door, he suddenly is nowhere to be found. She calls for him, and finally finds him slowly wandering down the upstairs hallway, looking all disoriented, and yawning hugely, faking that he's not thrilled to see her, like, "What? Oh, you're home? I've been sleeping, not missing you at all. I've witnessed this. It's a riot." My dog has about 30 toys, and knows them all by name. He knows his red bone from his squeaky bone and his bone. If one of his toys is left outside when it's cold, he will run outside as soon as he can and bring it back and lay it in front of the heater. On a few occasions I've left the entrance to my house open unknowingly. My dog stood and barked for 30 minutes and I just disregarded him as messing around with something outside. After a while of barking he came and pawed at me and forced me to follow him to the door and continued barking at it until I closed it. Once the door was closed he then would go and fall asleep on the couch. Smart dog. He's done a few other pretty intelligent things too. I love how dogs can have amazing feats of intelligence, then followed by incredible feats of laziness. I have an African grey parrot, which is already a species well known for its intelligence. But certain little things still surprise me. One of my bird's favorite sounds to imitate is laughter, but she only laughs in situations where it's appropriate to laugh. For example, I'll be making fun of my dad, and he won't laugh. He'll pout and say it's not funny, but my bird laughs from across the room. I think she can recognize sarcasm as being a distinct tone of voice, and knows that laughter is usually a response. I remember when I went to a pet store there was an African grey parrot who decided to mimic my voice and confuse the heck out of my parents. Those birds are funny as heck. My dog has figured out what time I get up for work. So at 7 AM on the dot every goddamn morning, she bolts awake and starts barking. Not for food, not to go for a walk, not for scratches or anything, to get my lazy butt up. She does it until I get up, then snuggles into my sheets where I was sleeping to get cozy and passes out. She even does it on the weekends. Yet, my dog does that too. She's better at telling time than I am, and she doesn't even need a clock. This happened a few days ago. I was playing with my grandmother's 7-year-old dog that she recently adopted. When he tried to nip my face playfully, in order to discourage the behavior, I simply said the words "ah, bad." What happened next surprised me. He walked outside through his dog door and sat at the window looking in, with a guilty look on his face, and wouldn't come in until I said so. When I let him in, he hid under the kitchen table until I called him over for a big hug. Not sure if this is some residual fear he holds from his past. TLDR. Dog almost nips my face, then proceeds to put himself outside as punishment. I used to have 2 dogs, the smart one and the dumb one. When I would give them both a treat, like a rawhide bone, the smart one would wait a minute or so and then run to the front door barking like crazy. The dumb one would race to the front door to see what was going on. When she finally realized no one was there, she would go back to her previous spot and find her treat missing. The smart one had tricked her into leaving the treat unguarded and taken them both. This happened several times and the dumb one never figured it out. I would usually take pity on her and rescue her treat. When my dumb dog is playing with a toy that my smart dog wants, the smart dog will go find another toy and start playing with it like it's got the antidote in it. The dumb dog will abandon her toy and take the smart dog's toy. Smart dog then gets the toy she wants. After I left for school, my parents' black German shepherd would get lonely, so she would escape the yard and run 3 miles to the dog park. Then, even after my parents got her a black and tan shepherd for company, she would still escape the yard and take herself for a walk. My dad would leave them in the garage with the garage about 1 stroke to a foot open. The neighbors would let them out at noon and then return them to the garage. On several occasions they claimed to have witnessed the black shepherd get on her side and wiggle underneath the garage door. Then, once on the outside, she would get a running head start and sprint over the electric fence unfazed. Once on the outside world, she would roam around for a few hours. Then, about a 1 stroke 2 hour before my mom was due home, the neighbors would see the black shepherd jump back over the fence into the yard, then wiggle back underneath the garage door. When my mom would get home, both dogs would emerge from the garage as if they'd been in there the whole day. My lab with steal toys from other dogs at the dog park. When the dog is trying to get it back, he will casually throw it to his side. The other dog will cross in front of him and while its head is down to pick the toy up, my dog humps the crap out of him. Surprise. Whenever the doorbell rang, our Portuguese water dog would run to the door and bark. So eventually he learned that if he went to the door and barked, my family would get up and go to the door to see who it was. This led to him barking at the door during dinner, so we would get up to see who it was, and while we were at the door he would run back to the table and steal our food. When there is a doorbell sound on TV, my one pup will bark an alert type bark. I've told him, as if he understands English, that we've never lived in a place that had a doorbell. I got him as a puppy. I don't understand how he knows what that sound is. My German shepherd mix cut her paw on a sharp rock while walking at the beach. The vets cleaned it, dressed it with antibiotic ointment and wrapped it up in an ace bandage. He told me not to remove the dressing for a week, to make sure that she wouldn't pull off the dressing and lick her wound, like she has so many other boo-boos she's endured. He put a cone on her head. Yay. My baby was not down with this. She proceeded to walk around crying, whining, and pouting for the next several hours. Being the pushover I am, I didn't have the heart to torture her any longer. I decided to attempt a trial release, explaining to her clearly that she can't pull off her bandage or lick it. I completely expected biology to take over. Totally thought she would rip the dressing off and lick her cut, but she didn't. In fact, she did not touch it for the entire week. She would look at it, sniff it, but never did she make any attempt to remove it. This completely blew my mind. She's always been smart, but her actions went against all instincts, like she knew it was helping her. Or she just didn't want to be reinstated to the cone of shame. We had 2 boxers and 2 teacup chihuahuas when I was growing up. We used to just leave a big bowl of food out and the dogs could eat when they wanted. Delilah, our smallest teacup chihuahua, 4 lbs, got morbidly obese this way, 6 lbs, so we had to put her on a diet. We got one of those bowls that was raised on legs for the boxers and got a teeny bowl for the chihuahuas. Delilah would eat all the food for the chihuahuas, leaving our little male going hungry. But that wasn't enough for Delilah apparently, and she wasn't really losing any weight. We were confused until one day, we saw the youngest boxer using her nose to shovel food out of her own bowl while Delilah ran in circles beneath the bowl picking up every stray piece of kibble. The boxer was not eating a single kibble. Her mouth was closed. She was only shoveling. I don't know how they managed to have the conversation where they come up with this plan, or how Delilah talked the boxer into this plan in the first place, but we had to switch to feeding them individually twice a day. Note, Delilah is now at a very healthy weight, around 4 pounds. I had a similar situation, except it was my husband's grandmother that we took care of, dumping her food on the floor for my boxers. She only weighed 90 pounds, but the dogs weighed 70, 90, and 100. Once, while cooking dinner, my husky barked at the front door. When I went to look, he snuck in the kitchen the other way, jumped on the counter and stole a whole block of cheese. My dog covers his food dish with dirty clothes on the floor if he doesn't want it. He saves it for later and will come back to it. When my fiance's brother's lab was a puppy, it took a crap inside and took dirty clothes and covered it up. First off, my dog is very needy and demands attention all the time. So one time my sister was packing to leave on a vacation. She had all of her clothing packed in her suitcase, but it was left open. My dog didn't like the looks of this, so when she was off eating lunch, he decided to go up to her suitcase and pee all over the contents of it. My sister was pee. However, I found it quite amazing because he managed to only pee on her clothes and not anywhere on the suitcase or ground. He thought it would keep her from leaving, when in reality he made my sister do a lot of laundry. Haha, your sister was pee. I see what you did there. My cat didn't like the frequency I changed his litter box at, so he learned to go in the toilet. I originally thought it was one of my kids going to the bathroom in the middle of the night without wiping flushing, but then I saw the cat doing it. I was impressed. My wife and I had a Doberman, F, and still have a GSD, M. The Doberman was getting older and she loved laying in this dog bed we got her, but every once in a while the GSD would go lay in it. She was not very happy about it. She would come over and swat her paws at him, trying to get him up. He wouldn't budge. So somehow she learned what I have to say is one of the strangest and smartest things I've seen from a dog. She would run outside. We have a dog door, and she'd start barking at the fence. The GSD would hop up and come out to bark with her. No sooner than he got to the fence to start barking, she would come strolling back inside and lay down. The GSD had no idea, and she did this all the time. She always had what we interpreted as a nice smug look on her face. I have no idea how she ever figured this out on her own, but to me it shows that she had some level of reasoning or what have you. My old beagle passed back in December, but he was a smart one. He knew how to hoard bags of pretzels that he would steal from the house whenever my brother left his room door open. He would bury them in the flower bed with only the cover showing. Whenever he wanted one, he could just go over and stick his nose in without having to unbury it. He knew how to hide pills. He had a few allergies in the springtime, and he knew the medicine made him dopey. So, he would act like he took the pills and even keep them in his mouth for up to a few minutes. Then when we weren't looking, he would hobble outside and spit them out. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and after that, he started going fast. We had him on steroids, which we had to hide in his food. He found out eventually, and he stopped trusting us. He wouldn't eat the food we gave him, and he wouldn't drink the water. So to drink, he would go out to the frozen pond and pour out the ice until it broke. He would drink that water. He was probably the fattest beagle ever. Sounds like your beagle was a Christian Scientist. Allow me to paint a picture for you. When my dog was younger, he would do the standard: see a squirrel, chase said squirrel up a tree, bark incessantly at said squirrel for 1/2 hour, repeat when necessary. Recently though, he did something different that floored me. I watched him eyeballing a squirrel that was outside eating birdseed that had fallen out of the feeder. When I let him out, he sprinted towards the squirrel and chased it up a tree. Pretty standard. Here's where he deviated from the norm though. Rather than continue barking at the culprit, he instead sauntered over to the birdseed and crap right on top of it. A steamy log right on the squirrel's food source. I couldn't have been more proud. See, my dog just gets confused when they go up a tree. I believe he exists in only 2 dimensions. He doesn't believe in up. Observation. My cat kept sitting on a fax I needed to send. Hypothesis. She can detect the most important object in the room and will sit on it. Experiment. Put my current driver's license and my expired driver's license on the floor. Result. Cat sniffs both licenses. Sits back down on fax. My cat freaking knocks on my front door when she wants to go come inside. She has figured out that it is louder than scratching the crap out of the door. It was pretty creepy the first time since we thought someone was at the door, but it was the cat. It's pretty crazy how cats can be both incredibly smart and incredibly stupid at the same time. My cat once in a while pesters the other cats, so we spray him with a spritzer. He always flinches when he sees it. Sometimes we don't even need to spray it. It's hilarious. And then he runs off. When he isn't acting up and I show him the spritzer, he just looks at it or ignores it. So what this means is that my cat knows when he is behaving bad and when he isn't. They always know. They just don't care. When my beagle realizes I'm getting ready to go to bed, she'll go hide somewhere in the hope that I'll forget to put her in her kennel. One evening I yawned and stretched and happened to look over at her little doggy bed. She was slinking away to try and hide. That crafty dog. She was slinking away to try and hide. Beagles all have that shifty slinking thing down to an art. I don't know why. It's just something beagles do. Like they're jewel thieves or something. My dog does that too. My other dog Butters likes to chew on his paws. We don't let him. So sometimes he'll grab a bone and set it down in between his paws and lick that. And once we turn around, he'll begin to chew on his paws. But when we turn back around, he's licking the bone, even though the evidence of him chewing on his paws is a soaking wet paw. Many dogs who do this start to grow yeast in webbing of their paws. The yeast creates an infernal itch, which leads to more chewing, licking, which leads to more yeast. You get the picture. My sister used Benadryl spray on her beagle's paws. No more itchy paw yeast, no more paw chewing. When my parrot is hungry, she'll ask for a nut. I don't know when she learned this, but she'll literally say want a nut when she's hungry or when she just wants a treat. Fastest phrase she ever learned. She does it for the peanuts. Haha, my poodle did the same thing with me once. He just lifted his leg and immediately put it back down, then gave me a look like there. Can I go back inside now? He'll also peel back part of the cover on his tennis balls so he can grab them and throw them in the air himself. Your dog is clearly very tired of you. Without me teaching him to do so at all, my 5-month-old corgi pup watches walk signals and understands that when it shows a red hand, you stay and wait, and when it shows a lit up man walking, that it's time to walk. Every single time he will walk ahead before I start to walk when the signal changes. My cat landed badly once and hurt his leg. He got extra treats and attention for a while, until we caught him limping with the wrong leg. Oh my god, that's hilarious. We sometimes give our husky a treat when he finishes his bowl of food. He will often take the last of the food in his mouth and hide it under his tongue, then open his wide as if to say look dad, all gone. He's a smart little bugger. When my dog was a puppy, I gave her a slice of cheese. She decided to hide it, so she put it smack in the center of the carpet, then went to the trash, pulled out a used tissue and placed that on top of the slice of cheese. She also straightened out the tissue a bit so it covered as much of the cheese as possible. She didn't notice me watching her, but when she was done, she glanced at me, then glanced at the cheese to see if I can see it. Would have been an excellent hiding place if it wasn't yellow cheese placed in the center of a red carpet and covered with a white tissue. One of my childhood cats couldn't stand being locked out of a room. In our old house, we had door handles instead of knobs, so she would jump up, wrap her arms around the handle and hang there until her weight pulled the handle down so she could open the door. She was a light cat, and it would sometimes take a few attempts, so you'd heard this loud thwang 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 then thud as the door swung open. Whenever we had company over, we'd lock all the cats in the laundry room so they wouldn't escape, freak out, and would have to construct a tower of stuff underneath the door handle to keep her from escaping. Then, the other cats learned how to open the doors by watching her, so we had 3 gymnasts letting themselves into any room at all hours of the night. My cat will come and sit by anyone that's sad or stressed and lick them. Her intuition surpasses that of most humans I know. She runs into walls, though, so I can't speak too much for her intelligence. Cats are very empathetic animals. The same cat I posted about in this thread is biting me on command. Anytime I was crying, she would come to me and start purring and cuddling with me. My old dog could somehow shake the lock loose on the back door and then push down the handle and let himself in. Freaking labs. My mom has a German Shepherd that can go through doors too. Fortunately this kills the door. I had a skipper about 10 years ago. He was always a keen dog, but never learned any tricks or anything like that. One day after my baseball game, we forgot him at the field. We live in a city, and thought for sure that we had lost him. We looked for hours, asking around, but to no avail. Then around 1 or 2 in the morning, we get a phone call from my grandparents. They said that they found our dog on their doorstep. After more asking around, it turns out that our dog walked from the baseball diamond to my grandparents' house, about 6-7 kilometers away. Never knew he knew the way. The odd thing was that our house was much closer than my grandparents, so why did our dog go to them first? Because he knew that grandma and grandpa give him tons of treats, which they did. Smart little bastard, he was. Maybe he didn't return to your house because you forgot him. Not as impressive as some of these. Dog displays a myriad of intelligent actions, but this one stands out. I live beside the road. The dog knows not to go in the road. We have an outside cat, a stray that we feed and take care of, that goes in the woods across the road. The dog goes absolutely ape crap if he sees the cat in the road and stands in the yard barking at it until it gets out of the road. Then he continues about his business. Before she died, we taught my husky shake and she'd shake hands with us. Over time I taught her left and right. I'd extend my hand towards the center, and she knew which paw to use based on what I said. She also had a problem with jumping up on people, so I taught her that when I placed my hand flat on my chest and patted it a few times, to jump up on me, and from then on she never jumped on anyone unless they told her to. These are only 2 of the stories, but she was the smartest dog ever. I made her sad. I've got 2 cats, one skinny and one fat. The skinny one will go into the litter tray when the fat cat is eating and make a huge performance of digging about. The fat cat will leave in disgust, whereupon the skinny cat will practically inhale fat cat's food. Devious. My cat has worn a collar since he was a kitten. I took it off for a day to air out his neck fur. I placed it on my desk, next to the collar he wore as a kitten. Forgot about it. Watched a movie that night. He comes prancing up. Yes, he prances everywhere. It's hilarious. With something in his mouth. Drops it by the couch. Sits. Stares. I pick it up. It's his baby collar. I put it on the table, not really thinking too much about it, seeing as he brings me all sorts of things ranging from chapstick to yogurt cups. Soon enough he's gone, but just as soon he returns, with something else in his mouth. Same routine. Drops it by the couch. Sits. Stares. It's the collar he was wearing that morning. I pick it up. Put it on the table. Whatever. Silly cat. But he is relentless. He starts batting at it, meowing. I look over at my dad, who has been laughing a bit at this scene, and he plainly states, he wants you to put it on him, so I do. He was very content and came to lay down on the couch with me after I returned his collar to him. Upvoted for airing out neck fur, lol. I have 2 cats. One is 3, one is 9. The 9-year-old is offended at the thought of using the litter box after the younger cat. If I don't let him outside, he pees in my bathroom sink like a frat boy. You can throw things, yell, poke, he won't move until he's done. When I walk my BF's dog, he knows that as soon as we turn around it's time to go home. He will drag his leash as hard as he can to turn around, but soon enough he'll learn that it's not going to work. He will then stop to pretend to pee on a tree, and while I'm not looking, walk slowly back the other direction hoping the walk will continue. My dog from my childhood used to recognize the neighbor's theme song and pick up his bowl and then sit in front of the TV. Weekend variations, because Neighbors was on Friday, included the A-Team. My cat can use a toilet, uses his paw to eat, like a human would scoop out food and licks it, and coolest of all, I can let him outside in any house. whether he is familiar with it or not, and he can be trusted to come back. Always. Usually he hides in the bushes until I freak out and look for him, and then he expects me to chase him. He can also knock on doors. I think he uses his head by headbutting it, but I'm not sure. When my dog was a puppy, when we had guests over, she would go through their bags, take out their wallets, take the cash out of their wallets, and bring it to me. She wasn't trained to do that. I guess she just liked the smell of money or something. She grew out of it, though. Sure, it was your dog. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.